Good afternoon. Thank you to everyone joining us today for a very important announcement with respect to modernizing skilled trades and apprenticeship education in the province of Alberta. As you may recall, Alberta's government is dedicated to strengthening trades and apprenticeship education. In fact, during the 2019 campaign, we committed to expanding apprenticeship learning and promoting a parity of esteem between trades and academic learning. In the summer of 2019, I had the fortune of commissioning the Skills for Jobs Task Force, co-chaired by NAIT President Dr. Glenn Feltham, who's joining us here today, and SAIT President Dr. David Ross. The committee completed their work and released their final report in the fall of 2020. And in their report, the panel made a series of recommendations to create a parity of esteem and expand apprenticeship education in Alberta. As part of their final report, the panel recommended drafting new legislation to provide a new and modern framework for apprenticeship learning in Alberta. They suggested that, quote, the new legislation needs to be principles-based, nimble, and flexible. System roles need to be clarified and strengthened, and governance models need to be updated. With this expert advice, it was clear that new legislation was needed, and that is why we are here today. It is with great enthusiasm and excitement that I announce Bill 67, the Skilled Trades and Apprenticeship Education Act. I firmly believe this new bill will make Alberta a national and international leader in apprenticeship and trades education. Let me tell you a little bit more of how we will do that. Firstly, this new legislation will enable the expansion of apprenticeship education to more careers. As noted by the panel, quote, it would be difficult, if not impossible, to significantly increase apprenticeship education programs without fundamentally changing legislation and governance. They also noted that the structural rigidity requires that every designated trade fit into the same mold regardless of whether it is relevant or appropriate. In addition, the language used in the current Apprenticeship and Industry Training Act is outdated and not inclusive. To summarize, the regulatory environment restricts rather than empowers the system. Furthermore, as we prepare for the post-pandemic economic recovery, we must take every possible step to help Albertans reskill and upskill for the new economy. Should the new legislation be passed, Alberta's government will begin a comprehensive multi-year effort to expand apprenticeships into new careers. There's no reason why occupations such as coding, graphic design, cybersecurity, ag tech, and others cannot be taught through an apprenticeship model. In this regard, I am confident that Alberta will lead Canada in creating new and modern apprenticeships. Once again, the task force under recommendation 4.1 suggested that Alberta's government, quote, significantly expand apprenticeship education to professions where it best meets the needs of learners in industry. The task force further recommended that the government explore apprenticeship programs in areas such as industrial trades, including, information technology, engineering, services, including social care, restaurant services, and driving, and business, recognizing that much of the world business disciplines are learned through apprenticeship models, including banking, insurance, marketing, and finance. Secondly, the new Act will create a nimble and modern framework. The current Act governing trades and apprenticeship education is over 30 years old, and it is far too prescriptive. It can take years to update curriculum or to designate new trades. The task force summarized that the regulatory environment restricts rather than empowers. Thirdly, the new Act will improve governance by establishing a new board of skilled trades. The new legislation will clarify roles between the board and government and ensure that the new board has the flexibility and autonomy it needs to govern the skilled trades professions. Fourthly, and lastly, it will also create the foundations to allow more educational options for journeymen. Currently, a completed apprenticeship certificate does not, in the vast majority of instances, ladder into other academic programs. A journeyman often receives little to no recognition, and the task force noted that, quote, "For those who achieve certification, the current journeyman certificate is not recognized as a post-secondary credential and has limited and unstandardized credit recognition. This ultimately limits the ability of our trades professionals to pursue further education and training or to shift into new careers. The changes in the Act will help address this and make Alberta a leader amongst other provinces in creating more opportunities for trades professionals." As you can see, the recommendations for the Skills for Jobs Task Force served as a very strong starting point for the new legislation. The group undertook significant stakeholder engagement to develop their recommendations. And with that in mind, I'd like to take a quick moment to thank many of the individuals who were involved in developing the new legislation. Firstly, I'd like to thank Task Force co-chairs Dr. Feltham and Dr. Ross for their leadership in this effort. I'd also like to thank the Skilled Trades Caucus, a collection of MLAs, for their involvement, input, and guidance in the process. And I'd also like to thank my Deputy Minister Curtis Clark, Assistant Deputy Minister Mike Fernandez, as well as Carla Corbett and Terry Brault for their significant work. In summary, I am confident that this new bill will make Alberta a national and international leader in apprenticeship and trades education. In closing, I'd like to provide a quick summary of next steps. Should the legislation be passed, the ministry will lead extensive consultation to develop the needed regulations over the spring and summer. We will engage with our colleges, our polytechnic institutions, employers, unions, apprentices, and others to build a modern apprenticeship system together. And with that, I'd like to pass things over to Dr. Feltham, co-chair of the Skills for Jobs Task Force.
Good afternoon, Minister Nicolaides, ladies and gentlemen. Wow, it is truly a great pleasure to join you today for the introduction of the Skilled Trades and Apprenticeship Education Act. This announcement, well, it matters. Alberta has historically had one of the best, if not the best, apprenticeship systems in North America. Today, building on this history, the Government of Alberta, well, it's laying a foundation for the future. The Skills for Jobs Task Force was formed in September 2019 to reimagine Alberta's skills development and apprenticeship model. The 21-member task force included knowledgeable people from industry, labor, and education, both post-secondary and K through 12. All were passionate about apprenticeship education. On behalf of myself and my co-chair, David Ross, let me thank task force members for their dedication and for their insights. I also would like to thank all those that we consulted and those who provided support. Our final report presented recommendations that support outstanding careers and build competitiveness and prosperity for our province. Our reimagining of the system was comprehensive. This report was informed by best practice worldwide. We made recommendations on a future skills agenda, core principles for apprenticeship education, strengthening apprenticeship, expanding the apprenticeship system to other careers, strengthening governance, aligning funding and incentives, and building parity of esteem such that apprenticeship-based education is understood to have as much value, merit, and worth as other post-secondary credentials. A central recommendation of the task force reflected a need for new apprenticeship legislation. It was clear that existing legislation did not provide the platform needed to implement change and advance our system. I know the minister has quoted a bit from our report. I'm going to quote the same quote he quoted because I think there is power in this. Existing legislation provides a significant impediment to advancing Alberta's apprenticeship system. It will be difficult, if not impossible, to expand the apprenticeship education model and to advance parity of esteem under the current legislative regime. The Act and accompanying regulations need to be fully rewritten. Today, the Government of Alberta responded with the introduction of the Skilled Trades and Apprenticeship Education Act. Let me close by simply saying, what a great day for our province. The introduction of the new Skilled Trades and Apprenticeship Education Act is an essential step in transforming our system. Aligned to the final report of the Skills for Jobs Task Force, it provides the platform for change. You know, it's pretty rare that I'm truly excited and pumped about the introduction of new legislation. Today, I am thrilled. This legislation provides a foundation for our future. So thank you to all who were involved, and a special thanks to Minister Nicolaides. It is now my great pleasure to invite Amanda Rosachuk, the board chair of Women Building Futures and a member of the Skills for Job Task Force, to say a few words. Amanda.
Thank you. I'm Amanda Rosachuk, Senior Vice President for EPCOR Drainage Services and the board chair for Women Building Futures. I want to thank you, Glenn and David, for your exceptional leadership on this task force. And thank you, Minister Nicolaides, for the opportunity to participate today and for the opportunity to contribute to the Skills for Jobs task force. As a member of the task force, I was pleased to represent multiple sectors of our community and bring a unique perspective through the organizations that I represented. I was honored to provide input in this review of the skilled trades and help create awareness that as we move forward in developing a more flexible and skilled workforce, that the trades are a valuable career choice for everyone. As the chair of Women Building Futures, an organization dedicated to empower women by removing barriers and providing training to prepare them for the trades industries, I felt it was important to ensure that the voice of a diverse workforce was heard. Women in particular are underrepresented in the trades, but they exemplify an opportunity to diversify the skilled trades of today and into the future. As a leader in an organization and an industry that relies on the trade sector, it was important to provide input on the needs of the business sector and ensure we are delivering the skilled workforce that will be required. As part of this task force, I personally felt that it was important to focus on a few key areas that Glenn can attest to. We discussed quite a bit. Those are to ensure that our youth and anyone looking to secure a lifelong career views the skills trades as a really great career option. We also talked about ensuring that ongoing learning is an important part of the trades. Lifelong learning and training provides our companies with a workforce that's able to adapt to changes in the industry, and to be sure that we're always flexible to respond to economic conditions and technological advances around us. Supporting the development of a strong and diverse workforce in Alberta has always been important to EPCOR and the utility industry as a whole, and is at the core of Women Building Futures' existence. Advancing initiatives that support a stronger, more diverse trades workforce benefits not only the industries where individuals are employed, but also the economic recovery of the entire province. I look forward to the continued evolution of the work produced by the task force and seeing recommendations make their way into legislation. I would also like to encourage those in the trades to participate in this next phase of engagement and really get to know what's changing in your industry. And for anyone not in the trades industry who is looking for a new career option, please consider the trades as a really great career choice. Thank you once again, Minister Nicolaides, for the opportunity to provide input into the work of this task force. And with that, I will turn it over to John Bilodeau.
Thank you very much. Hello, Alberta. Hello, apprentices, and hello, skilled tradespeople of the province. This announcement represents an enormous step in the direction of modernizing Alberta's post-secondary system, and apprentices, you've been asking for this change for a long time. Expanding the apprenticeship model to include more programs is an innovative decision that will bring a common sense and practical approach to education in Alberta. This model, in addition to more work-integrated learning opportunities, will add value for both new and current students. Importantly, this change is being implemented the right way. Apprentices will finally gain representation, ensuring that their insights and concerns are appreciated by government. As well, student representation has and will be included in the development of the new regulations, again ensuring that the insights and concerns of apprentices are addressed from the start. As representatives, organizations such as ASEC can and must ensure that programs affecting students are informed by students. And with that in mind, the Alberta Students Executive Council supports this announcement wholeheartedly. Now back to the Minister for closing remarks. Thank you.
John, thank you so much, and thank you to everyone for the incredible comments. I have to just come back to a quick point that Dr. Feltham made, and indeed, I think that today is a foundational moment that will help to really modernize our apprenticeship and system and trades education in the province with an eye to building a stronger system. So it's a very exciting day. I'm very excited to have broad support for this new initiative as we move forward. And with that, of course, happy to take any questions if there are any.
Thank you, everyone. We'll open the line to questions now. We have time for 2 questions each, or 1 and a follow-up. Operator, please put through the first caller.
Thank you. The first question is from Rob McAnally, CTV. Hi, my first question is for the Minister. Before we dig in on today's announcement, I just had a quick question for you about tuition hikes. The U of A is proposing major tuition hikes for at least a dozen programs, and students say that those increases will price many students out and negatively impact diversity. Have you seen the proposal, and if it does come to you, will you approve it as is?
Sure. The short answer on the first part as to whether or not I've seen the proposal, not yet. There's a current framework in place. Institutions have the ability to request exceptional tuition increases. Of course, as you may recall, Alberta's government put in place a cap on tuition to ensure that cost remains affordable. But there's still a provision in the exceptional tuition regulation that allows institutions to request increases above and beyond that. I don't believe my office or my department has received that proposal yet. I imagine we will shortly. After we receive the proposal, we will conduct a rigorous analysis to make sure it's compliant with the regulation and make a final decision at that time.
Do you have a follow-up, Rob?
Yeah, I sure do. Thank you. And quickly on today's announcement, is there what did the task force find as far as an area where this need was the greatest? What sectors are you seeing the need for apprenticeship most?
Sure. Well, I'm happy to have Dr. Feltham answer as well if he has any further comments. But I think that there was a recognition that there are many occupations where an apprenticeship style of education can be implemented. And I think the priority areas are those where we see labor market shortages and other areas that operate in a manner that is conducive to an apprenticeship style system. So as I mentioned, I think, areas in the service sector, many professions in business, marketing, finance, banking, I think are all strong candidates. So moving forward, as we think about new apprenticeships, I think it's important that we provide opportunities for employers, post-secondary institutions, and other providers to come to government with creative proposals. So once we have the legislative framework in place here, I hope to be able to move into the next step, which will be encouraging submissions and proposals from employers and post-secondary institutions around new apprenticeships. And we'll have a look at those proposals and look at opportunities to create new apprenticeships in areas of interest. But I think it's best that we work with employers and post-secondary institutions to help, to encourage them to identify areas of potential strength.
So why don't I jump in just for a second here? Just start by reiterating just how powerful an apprenticeship model is for learning. When we think about the most productive countries in the world, if we think about sort of the Germanic system that's used throughout much of Europe and that, they tend to have 250 to 300 apprenticeable trades. We're sitting at about 47. So when we think about the nature of growth and we look at best practice worldwide for learning and developing those incredible careers, there are many, many opportunities. As the minister said, if you look at many of the areas in IT, if you even think about the expansion of traditional industrial trades into areas like composites and materials, there are many, many opportunities. And I think with this new legislative framework, the ability to have industry step forward and to work with post-secondary in really examining what those outstanding learning opportunities are going to be, where utilizing an apprenticeship model would work best, are just unlimited. So I really look forward to having this discussion again 3 years from now, when we see just how many new apprenticeable educational opportunities have been created in this province.
Thank you, Rob. Operator, put the next caller, please.
Thank you. Ashley Joanna, Post Media.
Hi. I'm hoping the minister can talk a bit about what was keeping new professions out of the apprenticeship program under the old model and what this new piece of legislation does differently.
Yeah, absolutely. One of the challenges is, again, given the fact that the current AIT Act was written about 30 years ago, at that time, apprenticeship was viewed only through the lens of trades. So if you wanted to participate in apprenticeship education, it meant you were on a trajectory to a particular trade. So that worked well at the time, but again, we believe, and so that was one of the major limiting factors. If we wanted to create a new apprenticeship, or we wanted graphic design, for example, to be an educational opportunity that is taught through an apprenticeship style of system, it meant that we would then have to designate it as a trade, which comes with a whole host of other regulations, and it would take years and years. So the new framework will make a separation between trades and apprenticeship education to provide more flexibility so that we can look at new careers and educating those careers through an apprenticeship style. And again, just for clarity, the apprenticeship style focuses on the job learning, where the vast majority of learning occurs while working, and supplemented by academic programming. So that was one of the roadblocks that the task force highlighted in their report, that this new framework will be addressing. In summary, it was the old legislation was very restrictive, very prescriptive. The framework that we're moving forward with now is much more adaptable and enabling in nature to allow for more opportunities.
Do you have a follow-up, Ashley?
Yeah. When you talk about the desire to allow apprenticeships to translate into post-secondary credit, is there an end goal to have some sort of standardized model for how many credits an apprenticeship would be worth or something like that? Like, what's the end goal on that and that desire?
Yeah, I think that would be a desirable end goal. As I mentioned, an individual who completes a journeyman certificate and then subsequently, if they want to pursue a diploma or a bachelor's degree, they almost receive no recognition of previous learning. So we'll work with our post-secondary institutions to figure out the best approach, but I think a standard approach to credit recognition is a path that we can pursue. And this is really groundbreaking and exciting. I don't believe other provinces in the country provide this, but this, you can imagine the kind of opportunities that this creates. So again, right now, an individual who completes a journeyman certificate can't really build on that learning without having to really start over again in many instances. But now, and when we're through making these changes, that individual will receive recognition for much of their previous learning, be able to build on that, and that is essential for helping individuals in our workforce upskill, adapt to changing needs, and adapt to the changing environment within the economy. So it is incredibly essential and a very exciting initiative to be able to move forward with.
We have no more callers on the list, so that concludes today's announcement. Thank you, everyone.